Hello, Brick Sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and today we're going to talk about Lego slang. Now, disclaimer, this video is going to be targeted towards newer people to the Lego community or newer AFOLS. You'll learn what that is in a second if you don't know. So you may have been looking through things about Lego online, YouTube videos, forums, stuff like that, and seen some language that you didn't understand. Well, don't feel left out. There's a ton to learn here. We're going to talk about a lot of different terms, acronyms, and just different general topics of Lego talk. If you are a more experienced Lego person, this may not be relevant to you, so I apologize. If you have anything to add to the conversation, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'll tell you one thing we are not going to cover in this video is terms regarding Lego color, because that's honestly a whole separate subject, and I'll probably end up doing an entire video just on that. So let's go ahead and get started here, and the first one we're going to talk about is an AFOL. AFOL, and that stands for Adult Fan of Lego. An adult fan of Lego is somebody who is in the hobby as an adult. They're not just doing it for their kid, but they are themselves invested in it and enjoy it as a hobby themselves. I am a perfect example of an AFOL. The next one you will probably hear quite often is MOC, M-O-C, and MOC stands for My Own Creation. A perfect example of a MOC is this right here. This is the vehicle I built for the October challenge, and it is my own creation. This is not a Lego set. This is not stolen from anybody. This is something I put my head into a bin of Lego and came up with on my own. So that is my own creation. Now that we know MOC, let's talk about a SEC, S-E-C, and that stands for someone else's creation. Now, someone else's creation does not mean Lego created it. That means somebody else did. A friend, maybe found on Rebrickable. We'll talk about what Rebrickable is in a little bit here. Or just something you stole from someone else and you want to give credit that it's not yours and it's somebody else's. A beautiful example of a SEC is the Brick Sculpt logo. This was built by my buddy, Luca Herman. He designed it, he created it, put it in Lego Studio, and I decided to buy the bricks and build it. So I give him full credit for this build. I probably couldn't have thought that up on my own because it is such a beautifully done little project. So thank you, Luca. And that is a great example of a SEC. A little bit less used term would be a MOV or a mod. M-O-V or M-O-D. And this stands for my own version or a modified version. So maybe I took Luca's design here and I decided to change one of the letters or make it bigger or smaller or turn it upside down. So I basically used the inspiration of his build and maybe used some of the parts and construction, but made it my own. So it's kind of a way of giving credit to somebody else, but also saying it is something that I played with, modified, and changed, so it's kind of mine as well. A term that comes up a lot when you talk about AFOLs, adult fans of Lego, is Dark Ages. Dark Ages is not always just AFOLs, but it often refers to people who took time off in their Lego building between childhood and adulthood. Now, not necessarily. You can have Dark Ages within adulthood, you can have Dark Ages within childhood, but it's basically an extended period of time where you put the hobby aside. Now let's talk about some techniques. Basic techniques, I'm sure you guys have all heard of SNOT. S-N-O-T, standing for studs not on top. And SNOT is going to refer to a technique where you're using certain pieces to change the direction of the studs. For example, I have a few different pieces here, a bracket, and then a couple different what I would call SNOT bricks, where your studs are now on the side as opposed to just the top. So you're changing the building direction. So if you hear somebody say, I used a SNOT technique, that means they're no longer building straight up and down. They're now building forward, backward, left, or right as well by changing stud direction. Another super common one is to hear the word jumper. And jumper refers to another certain type of piece called a jumper. And there's a whole family of different jumpers. You've got a traditional jumper that you see here, but they've also got what I call a double jumper, 2x2 jumper, 2x4 jumper, and a round 2x2 jumper. And a jumper is any piece that's designed to change the Lego grid by half a stud. So normally on a Lego grid, you can only build on the studs. But jumpers split the difference between two studs. So it takes two studs down to one stud right in the middle. So you're kind of doubling the potential connection points of these studs, or changing the location, like this one goes in the middle of 4 studs. So a really cool way to add a lot of detail, add a lot of depth, and really give a lot more potential places where you can connect a brick to the standard grid pattern. A common one that you hear, and probably not so much on my channel, but throughout the LEGO community in general, is mills. And the reason you don't hear it much on my channel is because I generally don't build with mills. I do have a LEGO city, but I'm kind of cheap, and it costs a lot to add mills, and it requires a lot more building techniques, and I probably should switch to it, but I don't. But anyway, this is what's called a mills plate. And this is half constructed. This would normally be fully covered in plates on top, but I wanted to show you the construction of how one of these is built. They typically will have bricks with Technic holes in them on the sides, so they can be connected to each other. But this is a way of accomplishing a few different things. It makes your city modular, so you can take these plates in and out much more easily because they're a lot more rigid. Once you add this second layer of plate, this takes all the flexibility out of the base plate. If you watch this side, it's very flexible. So if you had a large building on this and you picked it up unevenly, you see that sag, it would start to pop off of the base plate. Also, having the Technic connections, you can pop these together and they'll fit really nice and crisp without having actual bricks connect over them. So you can really make your LEGO city modular and pull individual pieces out of it. Another really popular use for mills plates is because of these channels underneath. If you're running lighting in your city, you can run all your wires underneath the plates. So a lot of cool uses for mills, and that's basically what the mills system is. MILS stands for Modular Integrated Landscape System. Another cool acronym is STOMP or STAMP, and this one was new to me. I'd never heard this one before. And what they're referring to here is STOMP, stickers over multiple pieces, or STAMP, stickers across multiple pieces. And they're referring to when LEGO does this. They'll take 3 pieces together and put a sticker over it, so they're all attached. And this can be kind of an annoyance because it means that these pieces are stuck together or you're going to ruin your sticker. This is a really old sign, and you can see this bottom one has been taken apart and ruined. But LEGO does tend to do this. I see they're doing it less and less, and it is kind of an annoyance, but that is a technique that they do use. A very common one that I hear a lot is greebles or greebling. And this is not unique to LEGO, but it applies really well. They add just a bunch of small pieces. They're designed to look like they all have a purpose, even though it's just random stuff thrown in there in a specific manner. This is used a lot in models and stuff, and highly detailed building, just so you can make things look like they have function, as opposed to just boring flat surfaces. Now, one that we hear all the time, and I get asked about all the time, legal versus illegal building techniques. In almost every video I mention an illegal building technique, I get somebody in the comments who says, it's just LEGO. How can you have an illegal building technique? I hear that one all the time. What we're referring to when we say legal and illegal is the basic general rules of LEGO and what is publicly accepted and what LEGO actually uses in their builds. So illegal techniques generally greebles and refer to are nondescript use of a piece that causes unnecessary stress in the piece where it will otherwise boring sections. So sticking things together in connection that are not something LEGO uses and that will cause unnecessary stress and are not intended to go together that way are essentially illegal techniques. There's a few other things that could deem something illegal, but that's the general idea of it, and that's all that most people really need to know about it. If you get into really technical building and stuff, you'll often hear people refer to LDU. LDU stands for LEGO Draw Units, and LEGO Draw Units refer to the smallest dividable measure of LEGO. Now, a LEGO Draw Unit is considered 1/8 of a plate. So a plate is 8 LDUs. A bracket is considered 4 LDUs. And a brick is 24 LDUs. Now, I don't build at that level of detail. Somebody like Luca Herman does and can and has on the Discord server, but I am not good enough to get down to 1 LDU in my builds. I'll admit that right now, but there are people out there who can, and it is really cool. And it takes some serious advanced techniques to get to that. But it is possible, and that is why they measure in LDU. One that we talk about a lot is anti-stud. And an anti-stud is basically the opposite of a stud. So anything with a stud fits into an anti-stud. Now, most of the times that people refer to anti-stud, they're not just talking about clicking together a stud and anti-stud. It's usually in the context of maybe they put an anti-stud into a wall. Like here we have a reversed headlight brick into some bricks. So you can basically put a piece on there backwards. Or maybe they're doing a stud reversal, a simple stud reversal like this, where you have anti-stud facing out on both sides, as opposed to studs facing out on both sides. Now I want to talk about some specific pieces, because there are some pieces that are referred to a lot, and keep in mind, this is a quick video here just to talk about some of these. There are so many different slang terms out there. We're definitely not going to cover them all, but we're trying to cover some of the most popular ones here. And one that we hear a lot is burp, B-U-R-P, and they're talking about the big ugly rock piece. And that's this guy here. That's part number 6082, and these have been around for a very long time, and they're a great base for building mountains and hills and stuff, but they are referred to as the big ugly rock piece. And I'm sure you can guess what this one is here. This is a lerp, a little ugly rock piece. The smaller version of the burp. This is part number 6083, also has been around for a very long time, and serves a very similar purpose, it's just a different shape and size. Now, one of the most commonly referred to parts in LEGO is the cheese slope. And for some reason, I like to collect cheese slopes and try to get as many colors as I can. I don't know why, but these are all cheese slopes. It's a 1x1 piece with a slope on top. But within the cheese slopes, there are some variations, such as the double cheese slope, which is just too wide, and the cheese grate. Now, the cheese grate obviously has a texture on it, on top for the grating, but it's also handy because where the double cheese slope makes it too wide, the cheese grate makes it too long. Now, obviously, the angle is not the same, but that helps with other building techniques and other applications. So they make a little family right there, having the cheese family. And I'm pretty sure this is called a cheese slope because when in the correct color, it kind of looks like cheese. But they also do make this piece with a cheese print pattern on it that is a wedge of cheese. Next up, we have the Travis or Dalek brick. And that is this piece here. It's a 1x1 brick with studs on 4 sides and the top and an anti-stud on the bottom. The Travis brick is part number 4733. We also have the headlight or Erling brick, 4070. And I'm guessing that the two names on these are having to do with the person who created them. Not positive on that, but I think that's where it comes from. And a newer brick that's often referred to is the D-snot brick. A very popular part and so many uses. You will definitely see a video from me on the future about how much I love this piece. It's on the list. This is part number 3386. And the reason it's called the D-snot, well, obviously it's a snot brick, but from the top, it's got that curve on the back. So let's say a capital D in that orientation. So 3 very popular bricks, all of which have nicknames. Now, because we're talking slang and nicknames and acronyms, I'm going to make up my own tonight. Now, we've got a really great brick sculpt community going here, and we've discussed so many different things on the Discord server and the comments of these videos. And one thing that's kind of starting to pop up a lot on the Discord server is people referring to the cursed pieces. And this is because of the videos I did, and I'm talking about how I don't really like them, I don't know how to use them, and created discussions around them. And those 2 pieces are these guys right here. So this is part number 15706. This is the part featured in the November challenge. Go ahead and check that out if you haven't. I'll link it at the end. And this is part 79846. both of which are pieces that are incredibly difficult to use in a lot of applications, and they have now been nicknamed the cursed pieces. I don't know if you're going to hear that outside of the brick sculpt world, but hey, it's my video. I'm going to throw my own stuff in there too. So these are now the cursed pieces, at least in my little corner of the internet. All right, let's quickly talk about figs. So obviously everyone knows the minifig. The minifig is the standard Lego person. It's been basically unchanged for a very long time. Size and shape, that is a minifig. But a lot of people don't know the Friends figures are actually called mini dolls. They obviously have different proportions. They're taller, they're thinner, and they're designed to look a little different than the minifig. They're not near as boxy. So that is a mini doll. There's also a terminology called big fig, and I don't have any of those actually because I don't do a lot of themed stuff in my builds, but big figs would refer to something like the Hulk figure, or maybe the Star Wars Rancor, or maybe like a Harry Potter troll, where it's extra big, and it's not minifig size, but it is supposed to be scale to a minifig. Another common term when you're talking figures is CMF. And CMF stands for Collectible Minifig Series. And there's lots of CMF series. I don't know what number they're on right now, but they all have different themes, and they all have a whole series of collectible minifigs that come in blind packs, and they're quite popular. So whenever you hear CMF, they're talking about this particular series of minifigs. Now you probably know if you watch my videos, Lego sets are not really my thing. I do a little bit with them, but not a lot. I don't buy a lot of big sets. But there's a lot of terminology that goes around Lego sets. For example, UCS. UCS you see a lot on Lego sets that are Star Wars themed. It stands for Ultimate Collector Series. These sets are typically quite large, quite expensive, quite challenging to build. They're definitely targeted towards adults, more so than children. And they are usually very detailed and quite realistic looking, and Lego designates those as Ultimate Collector Series sets. Now it's kind of confusing. They also have an MBS set, a Master Builders series. And the Master Builders series is very similar to the UCS sets, but from what I've gathered, they're more like layouts. They have more play features, play functions than the UCS stuff. So it's like a large, expensive, complicated play set, as opposed to a large, expensive, complicated model. So they're a little bit different. Honestly, I think they probably could have grouped them together, but no, they call them Master Builder Series and Ultimate Collector Series. Something that Lego fans refer to a lot is Lego Ideas sets. And if you watch my videos, I've been doing my Obelisk series, and I get in the comments all the time, when's it going to be Ideas? Lego Ideas is a way for creators to submit their own builds to Lego to get voted on and hopefully become official Lego sets. And then when they do become official Lego sets, they will be Ideas sets. So that is a whole other branch of the Lego universe where people can get their own designs seen and possibly made by Lego. If you ever hear D2C when referring to a set, they're talking about direct to consumer. Now I've heard that this can vary a little bit, but this typically refers to sets that are exclusive to buying directly from Lego, either in a Lego store or on Lego Online. They typically are not offered to other retailers like big box stores or any other internet outlets. I have heard there's exceptions to that, but for the most part, I think that's the goal of Lego, is to make those exclusive to their retail channels. People often refer to sets as EOL, which means end of life, or retired, or becoming retired. So that means the set is about to be no longer offered by Lego, so get it now if you want the set, because it's going to go up in price, and availability is going to get quite difficult. If you ever heard somebody refer to a set as juniored, what they're talking about is Lego, for lack of better words, dumbs down some sets. They make them simpler, easier to build. They use larger pieces and less smaller pieces. They have a lower piece count, and they'll often use pieces that are molded where one piece can take up the space of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 pieces to make the builds more simplistic. And some people think of this as Lego doing a disservice to the set or the builder, but it's really not. They're trying to target a younger crowd with these sets typically. That's one of the big complaints with these pieces here, is they're often used in mechs and robots for knees and elbow joints, and people don't like that they're not hinged. And one of the biggest arguments for this piece is that it makes a knee joint that's fixed so that the mech stands up stable and doesn't fall over and is easier to play with for younger builders who are more interested in play than building a lot of the time. A GWP is a gift with purchase. So these are sets that are exclusive to LEGO VIP members when buying sets, typically at large dollar amounts, and they get these free with purchase, and they're typically kind of surprise sets. They're just things that they kind of pull out of nowhere and say, hey, we created this retro set, and you get this free when you spend way too much money with LEGO, which is what happens a lot. All right, we're going to quickly run down some different sites and resources that you may have heard of. A lot of these are acronyms or just places that people often talk about in the LEGO world that you may not know what they are. First of all is TLG. That's the LEGO Group, which is the formal name of the LEGO Group, which is who creates all these wonderful toys. Next we have LAN, the LEGO Ambassador Network. Now the LAN, LEGO Ambassador Network, refers to a group of influencers who apply and submit to LEGO to become said ambassador, and they will receive products early before embargo dates so they can review them, talk about them, and promote them. An LUG or LUG is the LEGO User Group, and a LEGO User Group refers to a group of typically AFOLS, but I'm sure there's some that are more kid-oriented, and they're groups of people who build a community around their hobby of LEGO. So they typically get together, have meetings, do collaboration builds, do shows, charity events, all kinds of stuff like that. It's basically a way of bringing people together with a like hobby. And they're usually built through social media or online platforms and found in local cities and things like that. Now you may have heard of somebody refer to PAB, P-A-B, or the PAB wall. And what they're talking about is Pick-a-Brick or Pick-a-Brick wall. And this is the section in a LEGO store where you can fill cups or the newly adopted boxes with LEGO and pay a fixed rate for however much you can cram in one of these boxes. There is also an online Pick-a-Brick wall, which can be referred to as online PAB. And it is basically the same thing, but through the internet. But you do pay for each individual piece that way, a certain price. It's not bought basically by the bulk in a box. Similar to the PAB, you have the BAM, B-A-M, and that stands for Build a Minifig. Now, Build a Minifig section is also in an official LEGO store, and that's the section where you can go in and build 3 minifigs with accessories, put them in a clear blister pack type deal, and buy them. So it's a great way to get minifigs for city and themed stuff in the LEGO store. If you hear someone refer to BL, they're talking about BrickLink. BrickLink is a site that was purchased by LEGO to buy individual parts, sets, things like that. And it has a great, strong link to LEGO now and a lot of cool integrations. If they refer to BO, they're talking about Brick Owl. Brick Owl is another site you can buy individual LEGO parts and sets on, and it is independent. It is not owned by LEGO, but it's very similar to BrickLink. Sometimes I prefer to use Brick Owl, sometimes BrickLink. BrickLink is typically more popular, but I do like both, and I think they both have their advantages. I could do a whole separate video on that in the future. If somebody says Rebrickable, they're referring to a site where people post their own mocks, and often people will sell their own instructions for mocks. But it's a great way to get inspiration and see stuff that other people are doing and putting out there for the public to see and buy, or a lot of the mocks are free. And it's a great way to integrate also with LEGO, because you can get parts lists and things and take them right over to BrickLink or Brick Owl and buy those parts. This mat that I shoot all my videos on is from Rebrickable, and it's one of the coolest things I own. If you hear somebody refer to Studio, they're generally talking about the most popular software used to create LEGO creations on a computer. Now, Studio has changed names quite a bit, but they all refer to the same thing, and generally it's just used as the most up-to-date version. So it's been called Studio, Studio 2.0 is kind of the current version. In the past it was called Stud.io or Stud.io, and I think the most current version or name would be called BrickLink Studio, because After LEGO bought Bricklink, they fully integrated it with Studio, and the two are closely connected now, and the download link for Studio is actually in Bricklink. So I know we've covered a lot here. I'm sorry if I bored some of you. Hopefully you guys learned a few things in this. I know I did. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below in the comments, and hopefully this can help you guys talk the LEGO language a little bit better or understand what other people are saying when they're commenting. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm going to do more just like this in the future, and we will see you next time.